Hello, everyone. We are back with another episode of this podcast with a very exciting and special guest, acting CEO and administrator of the Real Estate Council of Ontario, Jean Lépine, and he is going to be in the hot seat today. Jean, let's start. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you coming in to be in the hot seat with us here at OREA. I know,
it's
right?
a pleasure.
Thank you. Many of us have had the pleasure of hearing you speak between AGMs, meetings, some of the summits that you've put on. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, I'd love to.
Yeah.
I'm just an Ottawa kid, born and raised. I went to Ottawa U, played a little bit of hockey there. As a kid, I grew up as an athlete, so that was my reference. But at the end of school, I was introduced to a politician through a friend, and I went to work on Parliament Hill, and that's when I fell in love with kind of the idea of government and something bigger than yourself. Mm-hmm. And so I was very lucky. I had a great opportunity there, and that turned into other opportunities. And so I spent the better part of my first 10 years working in politics and in government, first federally and then provincially. And then that kind of catapulted me into regulated industries.
Very nice.
And that's how I find myself here in some ways.
Here, lucky with us.
Yes, very.
You're doing wonderfully, and we appreciate everything
that
you're doing. What is one thing that people might be surprised to learn about you or know about you?
Yeah.
Other than the hockey kid thing.
Yeah, that every kid wants to play hockey.
I know, that's so Canadian, right?
It doesn't make me special in any way. But I think one thing that people may not know is that I actually love this work. So I am one of those people who maybe runs towards the fire instead of away from the fire. And so because this business is very much about people, it's very connected to who I am and where I like to play. And the fact that it is policy, compliance, regulatory is very much aligned with kind of my path. So that might be a thing people don't know, is that I'm actually having fun, as hard as it can be at times. I'm having fun doing this work.
It's like real estate in general. I think when I came in, people assumed, or I assumed, honestly, that real estate was sales. And I go, I'm a horrible salesperson. I'm not here to push you into doing anything. And someone said to me, it's a people business. And I go, great, that's right up my alley. So that's really cool to hear. So you were appointed administrator of RECO during one of the biggest crises we've seen in this province and for the organization, what you were facing. What was going through your mind as you stepped into that role?
Well, for me, because I hadn't come from the sector, and so I studied a little bit what had been going on, et cetera, but I didn't have the full feel of the sector. So really my goal was to come in and stabilize the organization, because I got the sense that they were under the media spotlight, and that's an uncomfortable place to be. So for most people, that's very uncomfortable. For me, that's a place that I've been, so I kind of understand that. And understand maybe the levers that you need to pull to try to get people to calm down. But at the end of the day, it's about people. I mean, we're probably going to talk about people much of this conversation. You have to try to assess, like, how are people feeling and how are people getting ready for progress, because you never want to. Stabilization, in my opinion, is not about, okay, now let's hold this down for a period of time. It's about when you fall down, you clean yourself up and then you keep walking. And so that's what this organization needed to do, is to get up, clean itself off and keep moving, because as a regulator, you don't get a day off. You have to be able to perform. And so my job was to go in there and make sure that everybody was okay, make sure that systems were functional, and then we needed to get on with the good work of the organization, principally good people trying to do a good thing, tough situation for the entire sector.
Yeah. Not
just the organization, for the entire sector. We all share in that. I say we now, which, obviously on that first day I couldn't say we. But now I kind of feel like we all own progress that we can make in building trust with the sector, with consumers. And it's a big opportunity. And I see that very positively.
Some of the, I'm going to ad lib a little, some of the reports that OREA's put out show sort of the lack of trust in the real estate sector. In our conversations with you, with Minister Flack, even the Premier, especially the Minister and the Premier, they seem to have been really happily surprised that realtors, your grassroots realtors, are looking for the regulator, for you coming in as the administrator to come in and really nail down the new maybe policies, procedures to get those bad apples out or properly, with consequences. So what is your take on that? How do you feel about that kind of?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very natural for everybody to want the bad apples out of the business. And so then and we all agree on that. And I would say that 99% of the apples in the barrel today are all good apples. So then it's like, how do you find the bad apples? And do you have the right tools to find the bad apples? And I feel like this organization, despite the act and amendments to the act in 23, and just the construct of the whole sector, it's not perfectly set up to find the bad apples.
Yeah.
That's why we're introducing new things like annual financial filings and maybe leaning to monthly reconciliations at some point, because that's going to help identify certain things. And I know we haven't talked about this enough, Kim, but we, as an organization, we need to move from being reactive to what's happening in the sector to proactive based on data. Like, we have to move, this organization, RECO, has to move more in tandem with where the sector is headed and where it is, rather than wait to hear a bad thing and then have to act.
Yeah.
Or to get a tip or a complaint, or like, that's just part of the game. That's going to continue. But wouldn't it be better for the organization to actually have a pulse of what's happening in the sector? And so maybe at some point in the future, we can talk about how we share data, because data is the world today. We're all living in this world. And if we had better data sharing, I think we might be more successful as a regulator. We could elevate. And that is very interesting, like in my brain, that's a very interesting place to be, because it takes you away from that reactive sentiment to more of a proactive sentiment. And I'd love for the organization to get there over time.
And it's just that anticipating those things, right? So you're right. Reactive to proactive is a big bonus. So in that, we're moving towards, we've seen that report now come out, your statement in April that talks about moving the board with the 5 interim members from an open board to a closed board. So can you talk us through, I suspect it's part and parcel, but what's the purpose from moving from that open to the closed?
Yeah, I know this is a difficult one, and I know that there's a bunch of history. So I don't want to spend time talking about history, but let's talk about the future. The future should see a regulator with the independence it needs to make the right decisions. And so this is a perspective, and I feel strongly about it. So we're having a one-on-one, so I'm going to share my perspective.
Yes.
I don't represent everybody, but I do have a perspective, and that is that when there are elections to a regulator's board, the folks who are elected probably feel like they should represent the interests of the people that elected them. And so that notion of having an election to the board of the regulator who's supposed to oversee the sector and make tough decisions really around compliance and enforcement, penalties, fines, like hardcore stuff in some ways, to put folks who are elected to represent the interests of the people who elected them on the board, that puts them in a very tough spot, I believe.
Yes.
And so that's why some of these changes have been made and suggested on a go-forward basis. The notion of closing the model versus having an open model is that once you've moved to a skills-based board, now you've moved into a different way of recruiting, where you're not recruiting from the sector because you're going to use the Industry Advisory Council and other consultation methods to do a better job of keeping very close input and feedback from the sector. But when you go into a closed model, what you're really doing is trying to recruit folks who have governance expertise, strategy, risk management, finance, accounting, Like it's just a different skill set.
Right.
And so that's why this thing feels a bit different, because we are trying to set up this board in a different way on a go-forward basis. That doesn't mean it's a full reflection on the past. It's more about modern governance today, where you have a different skill set on the board.
And there's where the difference will be, is as much as, realtors on a day-to-day basis, we're used to being in charge of what we do, business for self, right? We are sort of the ones always putting this input in. To lose that, I think, has been a little, I say to lose it, but to hear the announcement has been difficult for quite a few. But the fact that you've got that advisory council, I think is going to be a nice leeway into, listen, we still have a voice through that council and the council to the board. So I think that's going to be playing an important role moving forward. And just to clarify, we don't know what the composition of that is going to look like as of yet, but you'll sort of report that when it's ready to go.
That's right.
I suspect you're going to get a lot of people applying for that council.
And that's great. And you know what? I should say that that we've posted for the interim board as well. And the level of interest in that is very high from professionals who
Yes.
who operate on boards, et cetera. So we're going to end up, I think, despite having gone through a very tough time, we're going to end up in an even stronger place with new terms of reference for the Industry Advisory Council, a new recruitment around that membership, and a new approach to the way that it's used, because I don't think that it was used the right way, based on my experience.
Sure.
Having worked in other administrative authorities where we took strategic initiatives to the advisory council and we said, we're thinking about doing this, we're thinking about that. What's your input? What's your thoughts? What's good about this? What's going to be hard about this? How is it going to play out? I should say one more thing. There's great separation between a board of directors and its responsibilities for oversight and strategy and the responsibility of management to do its work. Mm-hmm. Management needs to be connected to the sector, collaborate, consult, seek input so that the options and analysis that it puts forward to the board for final decision making is thoughtful. They've done the work. So if you're ever in a scenario where the board has to be the last vestige of, oh, have you thought about this?
Right.
Change management. Management is not good enough. I say this like I know this is live. It is that management needs to be strong enough to have done their homework before they present something to the board.
Right.
So that's then the responsibility of the board to say, I don't think we have the right management if they're not doing their homework. So I feel very strongly about this because I've seen it work the right way. And I intend to build an organization for whatever period of time I might be here that has the right skill set, the right experience, and the right capabilities so that it delivers what it's supposed to deliver, which is strong thinking, strong alternatives, and policy.
And I think that's going to be great moving forward. I think that council, in conjunction with it's going to play a huge role, only because we are like the feet on the ground, hear the issues with the consumer, what they're concerned with. So as long as that's being communicated within, I think it's going to be a win. Hopefully it's going to be a win. I know that's going to be a transition period, but like anything we do in real estate, realtors don't like change, but this is something I think that could be a very positive change. So we're looking forward to when that is going to take place, seeing these board of directors come in. 3 of them are out for the notice of recruitment. Can you just explain for anyone who hasn't maybe read that statement that was put out back in April, what are the other 2 members of that interim board? What's the composition of those 2 going to look like?
So that 5 interim board, that the 5 members, 2 will be appointed by the minister, as is the case today. They appoint 3 of 9. But today, 2 will come from the minister. 3 are being recruited as we speak. They are being recruited by a professional recruitment firm called Boyden. And then there will be an independent panel that will review the applications and make a recommendation to the administrator in this case.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Extra accountability, right? That's what it is
all
about.
It is meant to be clear, transparent, based on skills, based on experience, based on the savoir-faire of being on a board. Because being on a board is not for everyone. It's hard work.
Yes.
It's complex, and you need to elevate yourself to be on a board. It's not about being in the mechanics of an organization. It's about being at the oversight level and strategy, risk management, etc.
Yep, agreed. Agreed. So when we talk about skills, we mentioned earlier registration, licensing, education is something that needs to be prioritized. You've mentioned this before. Can you quickly explain some of the goals for education reform that you recently announced in that 2026 business plan?
Education was one where I know there's a lot of history.
Yes.
And we must learn from history. I think that the organization we're fully into this discussion about education reform and what the strategy for the organization should be on a go-forward basis. We held that RECO collaboration summit just a little while ago, and the feedback we got was very good. Also very aligned. People are saying the same things. It's not like there are 15 disparate views.
Right.
People want to see the game elevated.
Yes.
They want to see a better continuing ed. They want to see the
new registrants.
The new registrants coming in at a higher level. So like that gives you kind of the meat of what you need to work on. But trust me, the organization doesn't believe that it can do it by itself. It needs to do it in collaboration with the sector and the professionals who work in the sector today. So I think you're going to see a lot of change in education. I think you'll see us elevate because the industry has said the same to me.
Yes.
It's like we want professional standards elevated.
Higher.
Everybody's saying the same thing. So let's work on how to get there together.
Yes. Yes. Agreed. We want folks coming out to be more ready, and we want folks even when they do their continuing ed to continue to learn, not just be stagnant. Leading into that, we also know that there are some serious problems with the administration of exams and cheating. I think that's in any sector, probably has to deal with that to some degree. What's your plan for restoring that integrity and confidence in the real estate examination process?
So I know that there's a newish relationship with an organization that has a platform that is secure, proctored, etc. My understanding of that is moving in the right direction. There were some folks in the past who, did a bad thing. We've been trying to deal with them unfortunately, through lawyers and others to get them to either step away from the practice or to redo education, et cetera. So we are very much on that problem. It's imperfect. Principally because, back in the day when you would go into a classroom, it was, very clear.
Yes.
You couldn't, well, I guess people could try to cheat, but it was
much
probably a
harder.
lot tougher. Now with the world today where you've got some virtual and some in class, there are some issues, but I think the new platform is better equipped to prevent that. But I don't think, I think what we need to do is make sure that the education strategy is on point and then work through the details on the execution of the exams as opposed to have the exam lead the execution of the education strategy. Not that you were saying that, obviously, Kim, but I think we need to button up that education strategy and then make sure that the way that we execute is
better
perfect.
in line.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And I should say there's a role for everyone in education reform and education execution. All associations, all boards.
Yes.
Everybody wants the same thing at the end of the day. So we need to work on it together. But the regulator needs to have its place as well, right? So we have responsibilities in the Act. The mandate of the organization is to be a provider of such, and also to ensure that consumers are aware of their rights and responsibilities. And I would say, maybe you weren't going to ask me this, but I'm going to go there, is this organization has done a poor job of connecting with consumers. It has invested very little, and its main guide is like one tool, and maybe we need to adapt that. We're talking about that now inside the organization. We'll obviously talk to the sector about that, but we need to invest in that. You can't hope that people know who you are and what you do. You have to work at that.
Right.
Hope is not a strategy, as we know.
Right. It's hard because I think, you sort of, I don't want to say coast. I think even member boards sometimes, associations will coast because we don't hear anything wrong. Nothing is going on, nothing's major, and then something major hits and you go, holy cow, we're a little behind in the 8 ball on a couple of things. And I think OREA is refocusing itself as well at the same time in somewhat of a similar fashion. So to come back around to it, I think is going to be a great thing all around. And you're doing a great job, at least being transparent with member boards, allowing them to come in and collaborate and give that feedback, even for associations like ours. You're asking our opinion, you're asking our advice, and then you take it back. And, at least we know at the end of the day that our input was valued, and that we're in good hands.
Well, your input is more than valued because you are the sector and you care about the future of the folks who are your members, but also about the consumers you serve.
Absolutely.
We share in that. We also share in the need to rebuild trust with consumers. And as much as, this issue that arose last year, that is a moment in time.
Yeah.
But issues like that have been kind of bouncing around for some years. They just happen to kind of hit the media. There's a big opportunity now, given where this whole sector is at, to rebuild trust with consumers. And that we have to do in partnership. The regulator can't do it by itself. The sector can't do it by itself. We have to do it in partnership. And I can tell, you and I have talked in the past and with Kathy and others, like we all want the same thing. So when you want the same thing, you generally can find a way to get there.
Yes.
We don't seem to be at loggerheads on kind of the pursuit. There's always going to be little things in the details that, we might disagree on. But at a high level, we agree where we're trying to get to. And I really appreciate the work of OREA, the membership, the folks who lead. You guys care about the future, as do we.
Yes.
So now it's just like figuring out how we work together.
Yes. And I think we're working together pretty well so far. Yeah, that's great. So before we wrap up, I'm going to have some things that maybe are a little bit different, a little more lighter in the subject, because you've been wonderful
terrific.
to give some great information. So tell us what you're looking forward to in the months ahead. What are some of the top priorities for RECO in 2026? Big oversight. And then, of course, as we come into summer, what's some of the fun stuff you're ready to do on a personal level for summer?
Oh, I got some great things to go in the summer. I'll start with the harder question, and then I'll go into the fun stuff. So we begin this process of repairing RECO. That's the way I would describe it, is try to fix the things that are available to us to fix before we get into modernization. And so we're going to spend the better part of the next 3 months repairing the organization and setting it up structurally for success going forward. But we've been engaging with independent third parties on strategy work with respect to digital modernization of the organization, very much needed. With respect to the financial strategy of the organization, we'll talk some more about this maybe on your next podcast.
Sure.
So digital regulatory modernization. So ensure that the organization is structured in a way to execute against the mandate and make sure that it has the right people to execute on that. So the next few months is all about getting that done right, introducing annual financial filings. That's a big piece of pie. Executing on the governance renewal and preparing for a new board. We got our hands full, but I think there's a general sense of excitement around the future of the organization. It's becoming unstuck.
Yes.
And that is, that's a feeling.
Yes.
Right? That's hard to feel it like in a table setting, et cetera.
Yes.
It's just I feel some air, some energy. And so we're trying to make sure that people feel like you have the permission to move forward.
Yes.
You are supported in moving forward and be excited about that. Or what are those motivating factors? So for me, I'm excited about the future of this organization. I'm excited about the team that we're building. And I think that we've got a shot at making this an organization that people can be proud of. There's just work to do.
Absolutely. 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 So summer. What's some of the fun things you're going to do over the summer? Not thinking about work.
This may have been a question things you don't know about me. I love motorcycles, water, boats, sailing. I want to be out on the water as much as I could be. So I plan on doing that. And my family has, we bought an old boat last year. So I just want to spend a bit of time out there. I'm not a fisher guy yet, but maybe I can learn that. But just being out in the water is very calming for me, and just going for a spin. So that's my plan for the summer.
It's a good relaxed spot, 100%. I'm a horrible fisher person, but I do like being out on the water, and I'll throw the line out and not know what I'm doing.
See what happens?
And sometimes I get lucky and something comes back. I don't want to touch the fish though. That's not my forte.
I don't blame you.
I know. Okay, so before we go, again, I have some fun questions. I'm going to end every podcast with five fun questions, just to sort of end it on a really good note. So,
all right.
Ready?
Yeah.
Guilty pleasure TV show.
Landman.
Very nice. Favorite sports team.
Ottawa Senators.
Very nice. If your job had a slogan, what would it be?
Actions over words.
Very nice. One thing you always have on your desk.
I have a small globe of the world on my desk that I bring with me wherever I go.
Very nice. Any pins in it from where you visited?
No.
Oh, not yet.
No.
Favorite place to vacation?
The British Virgin Islands.
Sounds lovely this time of year.
It's sailing. It's a sailing. Oh, it would be great right now, too.
Absolutely.
It's all about sailing.
Wonderful. Well, listen, thank you so much for being here, being so open and honest with some of our questions. I know it's not easy what you're undertaking over at RECO, and we just really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you to OREA.